News consultant and a former acting undersecretary for intelligence at the Department of Homeland Security. Good morning, John Cohn.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on again.
What do you think? What do you make of this letter that President Trump's lawyers wrote saying that he cannot obstruct justice?
Yeah, so this letter, which was submitted to the special counsel by the Trump legal team in January, does two things. One, it asserts some pretty broad authorities to the president, essentially stating that because of these authorities, he can't be indicted, he can't be subpoenaed, he could pardon himself. And those assertions have caused quite a bit of debate within the legal community over the weekend and into this morning. What concerns me as a national security and law enforcement person who has stayed away from the politics of all of this is that the letter also claims that the Mueller investigation is not credible, that in itself is a risk to our national security, and asserts that the leadership of the Justice Department and the FBI was or is corrupt. And this concerns me because Russia is trying to undermine the credibility of our government through their form of hybrid warfare, and this tends to play right into their hands.
Yeah, there's no question that. Well, let me ask you this question. The people who were saying you can't indict a sitting president didn't say that during Bill Clinton's impeachment scandal, did they?
No. In fact, Rudy Giuliani had made some claims during the Clinton impeachment proceedings, particularly as it relates to subpoenas and whether the president has to comply with a subpoena. And he seems to have a different position today.
Yeah. Also, they keep saying there's no collusion, and even Robert Mueller has said there's no collusion. We don't know what he has, so how can anybody legitimately say there's no collusion?
Yeah, so actually, that's actually an excellent question. And while there is a talking point that's being used extensively by the president's team, his supporters in Congress, his supporters outside of Congress and in the media, that actually factually is not true. We know that there was an extensive effort by the Russians to attack this country, including to undermine or influence the results of the election. We know that there were a number of suspicious contacts between members of the president's campaign team and individuals associated with the Russian government and Russian intelligence. We know that in one case, Russia stated clearly and asked for a meeting. Russian representatives stated clearly that there was an active campaign by the Russian government to aid the Trump campaign. They wanted to set up a meeting to provide information that they claim they had uncovered about Hillary Clinton and provide that to the Trump campaign, and the Trump campaign was very excited to have that meeting. Now, what we don't know is whether the types of interactions that I described and others, whether that amounts to criminal activity. No. And that's what the special counsel is investigating. So, this line that there was no coordination, there was no interactions, is just blatantly not true.
Right. And now we find out that Donald Trump's lawyers admit that Donald Trump wrote the letter for Donald Trump Jr., giving him cover for that Trump Tower meeting, which was to throw people off the scent that it was really about adoption when it was really about trying to get dirt on Hillary.
Right, and that's another issue that as a law enforcement person causes me concern, is that not only do we have multiple instances where there were unusual behaviors alleged, but when asked about it, people lied. And in law enforcement investigations, lying is typically a sign of consciousness of guilt. As when I've interrogated people in the past or interviewed people in the past, if I can't get them to tell the truth in that interrogation or interview, I want them to lie, and I want to be able to show that I lied. Because in a prosecutorial proceeding, sometimes it's just as valuable to show intentional lying as it is to be able to have somebody admit a crime. So there's enough that's suspicious about all of this that warrants the continuation of this investigation. And I think just what concerns me the most is that this has become so polarized and so political, with people, taking positions on a serious national security threat based on their political leanings, that it's impeding our ability to protect ourselves from continued actions by the Russians and, quite frankly, other foreign intelligence services.
John Cohn, ABC News consultant, former acting undersecretary for intelligence at Department of Homeland Security. John, thanks for your insight.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
7-4.